morning show here on Arise News. It's time now for our newspaper review, and as ever, we are going to start with This Day, and we're also joined by KAYODE KOMOLAFE, who is the Deputy Managing Director of This Day's newspaper group. Good morning to you, KAYODE. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning, Oji.
Good morning, Mr. KAYODE. Thank you for joining us. We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if we begin with This Day this morning, we know that our picture headline story has Pastor Osagie Iyamu on the left with Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State. That was them together yesterday at the Igbo Youth Union, which is where he took the opportunity to continue on his campaign, of course, for the APC candidate over in Benin City. What do you have to say about what's happening in Edo State as we are approaching the election? Not next week, but I believe next Monday it is? Yeah. The following Monday, rather.
Yes, I think the build-up to the election next week...
Saturday, actually.
Yes. Next week, the build-up, has reached the gathering momentum. Significantly, Inec has made it clear that the permanent voters card is a requirement for voting, and that whoever does not hold his PVC will not be allowed to vote during the election. I think that is very important, because usually disputes that arise after election, are partly traced to the procedure adopted in voting. But now that INEC has made it clear that PVC is a requirement, and that armed with your PVC and with your name on the register, then you are good to go on the election date. That is very significant. And the concern about the security is also something that is worthy of attention. The committee, the peace committee, headed by former head of state, General Absalami, has reportedly met the president, to have an outlook of what the security situation will be in Edo. Mm-hmm. And also, it's also worthy of remark that the security agencies, especially the police, they are also, putting all the arrangements in place to ensure that, things go well, during the election. But then something that we should point out here is that the frenzy, the heat generated so far, to the election, is in itself a symptom of political underdevelopment. Because the luxury is there now to have a saturated security arrangement, because this is election only in Edo. But imagine if it were to be general election, in which case you are having the election in the 36 states of federation. Of course, the security agencies, they will be, greatly outstretched, overstretched, in meeting the requirement. I think the political actors, should really call, their members, their supporters, if you, call them to order, to ensure that, election really should be a festival of democracy. It should be like a celebration. It should not be war. But a situation whereby you prepare for election as if you are preparing to invade a territory, or you are resisting invasion of a territory, it doesn't show, political development. We have witnessed it in previous election, and it is very unfortunate that that is what we are also witnessing here. But then the important thing is that the police in particular and the other security agencies, they appear, to really know that their job is well cut out, for them. As for the photograph, yes, the Imo State Governor, Senator Uzodinma, is in Edo to give support to the APC candidate. And I think that is just maybe a response to a similar support which the PDP candidate, Governor Obaseki, has also got, from PDP governors. In the last few weeks, PDP governors have been making political visits, to Edo State to legitimately give support, to their colleague. So I think it's just a similar thing that is happening in to the APC candidate, this time around. Now, yes, and then finally, is that the degree which both the APC and the PDP are exchanging accusations, is not healthy, because some of the allegations made, they are very grave, in terms of security. Because when you accuse a party of importing drugs, of stockpiling arms, I think like the Inec said, the only arm that you need, for the election is the PVC. But it is not something that is good that allegations are made that weapons are being stockpiled and that drugs are being masked in Edo State. So the gladiators in Edo State, should definitely not forget, the call made by the royal father, the Oba Bini, the other day, that he would want a peaceful election in Edo State, so that by next week, when the election is conducted in a secure atmosphere, free of violence, then we could have a conclusive election. Yeah.
Well, if we move to other stories on the cover of this day, at the very top there we see Mali's military have agreed to an 18-month transition government. That's Toby Sonoyi's report. That also, of course, talks about the unrest that's been happening in Mali. A Sahel region country has its own fair share of issues to deal with, security and the like. So with the military agreeing to an 18-month transition government, does this mean that peace is on the horizon for Mali?
Yes, I think the military, they've just tried to perhaps meet ECOWAS, halfway, because the demand of ECOWAS really was to reject the coup and, calling for the restoration of civil rule almost immediately. At a point, it was negotiated to about 12 months, that is a year. But now, if they're now saying 18 months, that is a little bit of concession. But it's also important that the junta there in Mali has agreed to release the former, the deposed president, President Keita, so that he could have time to take care of himself. And I think it is reported that he's even flown out of the country. Now, but then the 18 months, yes, may say it's not, it's a long time. But I think the challenge really is that whether the soldiers that have taken over in Mali are equipped to solve the problem of Mali. Because the basis, on which they had the coup, based on the protest against the regime of President Keita in terms of economic problems, security issues, and also the ingrained political problem, of national disintegration, that was, facing Mali. Now the question will still remain, just like you said.
Very good. Forgive us. OG and I both wanted to gracefully interrupt you there and throw to a short break, because it is now time for us to take a short break. And when we come back, we will, of course, continue reading the headlines across Nigeria's newspapers. Please do stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still in the studio with us is KAYODE KOMOLAFE, Deputy Managing Director, THISDAY Newspapers Group. Well, before we went on a break, you were reviewing the headlines on THISDAY newspaper. If we could just pull out the THISDAY style, right there we have 10 amazing women who have been saving lives and restoring hope. Amazons against COVID-19. These amazing women have been out there fighting, for the pandemic. If you could please just review some of these amazing ladies with us, that would be amazing.
Great. This day style has continued the series. I think this is the third installment in the series of celebrating those who have been on the front line in the war against COVID-19. Today, as you said, we have 10 Amazons who are really worthy of celebration, for their roles. For instance, readers will find very instructive and inspiring the story of Dr. Olayinka Onya, who is the founder and MD of Pioneer Memorial Hospital. It's really a story in courage and commitment to public purpose. The hospital so far has been able to diagnose about 300 patients of COVID-19, 59 of which were found to be in very critical conditions, and so far about 47 have been discharged. The story is, like I said, very inspiring in the sense that from the onset, the hospital saw it under the leadership of Dr. Onya, saw itself as part of the efforts, and it has played a very significant role. We also have Dr. Alero Roberts, who is the Vice President of Wellbeing Foundation, and quite a lot has been done by our organization in terms of educating and creating awareness. Dr. Bosede Afolabi has played quite a very remarkable role in helping the delivery of COVID babies at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. Still, there is a role played by Dr. Tochi Oko, whose role in terms of helping to digitalize, the issues around the pandemic, has also been very remarkable. Then, of course, you have Dr. Mrs. Olufemi Ladende, who is managing a World Bank project, Ready Sea. Ready Sea project, has been very helpful in trying to attracting funds, for the efforts, in combating COVID-19. Just like we had last week, quite a number of officers of the National Center for Disease Control, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, are also featured today. One of them is Dr. Babatunde Olajimoke, whose role in providing and securing testing kits, is really worthy of celebration. Then, of course, there is Dr. Abiola Fashino, who has been in charge of the maintaining quality health care in the isolation center that you have in Etiosa, here in Lagos. And of course, still on the side of managing the facilities, at the isolation center is the role of Dr. Jumoke Akure. Then, of course, we have the World Health Organization representative in Nigeria, Dr. Braka. Dr. Braka, working within the UN system, in Nigeria, has done a lot in trying to repurpose the facilities which hitherto had been used for polio eradication. Thankfully, Nigeria has been declared polio-free. But some of the facilities, which had been used, are now being converted, for use in fighting the battle for COVID-19. And last but not the least is Mrs. Shibuzo Ene, who also has, featured, very prominently in providing logistics. Yes, and just like we said last week, we must know that these are just exemplars, that you have quite a number of Nigerian, ladies and gentlemen who are on the front line and playing very heroic roles in this war against, playing very heroic role in the fight against COVID-19.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and their stories quite inspiring.
Thank you for your analysis on that really special cover there. That is, as you said, the last of a three-part series where This Day have commended Nigerians across the board for their support during this pandemic. If we were to move on now to the Guardian newspaper, I'm sure you heard the downpour, the very heavy downpour and the very strong winds late last night. We are still, of course, in the throes of Nigeria's rainy season, but it does seem as though what we experienced yesterday was almost out of the ordinary. What do you say about that? On the cover of The Guardian on Sunday today, we do have the flooded Ogba Ijaye Road by Area G Police Station after the downpour in Lagos. And as you can see, lots of cars still on the road. And I do believe this is obviously earlier on in the evening before the downpour got really strong. But it does seem as though when we do have heavy rains, flooding is almost inevitable. What do you say about that, Kayode?
Yes, it is not unexpected. You remember that since the beginning of the year, actually, since January, all through, even to March, the Meteorological Center, has been sending flood warnings. And some states, even the center actually go to the extent of naming local government, the specific areas where, areas that have been identified or projected, to have flood. And the areas we have just mentioned in Lagos, incidentally, were among the areas listed, that will have a flood. The same thing you have all over the country, in the north, in Borno State, in Kano, Zamfara, everywhere. So it is just that the prediction is coming through. So one hopes that the respective state governments that receive those warnings then, are really prepared for it, because the remaining 3 months, of this year, from all the scientific projections, are expected, to witness, flooding. So what we had last night in some parts of Lagos is might just be the beginning, of the flood experience that we'll be having. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's move over now to the Sunday Tribune, where the lead story there, the leaders from the north and the south are telling the federal government that they should heed to former President Olusegun Obasanjo's warning that Nigeria is more divided now. They were reacting to the former president's recent comments on the state of affairs under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, where he also described him as a yesterday's man. I would like your comments on that story.
Yeah. Yes, what you have there is really an expression by what I would call a faction. Or some power blocks in Nigeria, but the groups that made the statement, they actually represent different factions. You have there. For instance, the Northern Elders Forum is one of the signatories, participants, in the meeting that arrived at the communique. But then you have that the Arewa Consultative Council has already dismissed the role of the Elders Forum, equally to the point really that yes, Obasanjo facilitated it, but I think the focus should not just be on Obasanjo. It's not just be the focus should not just be on the messenger, but also on the message that what these various groups, what they are giving expression to, does it reflect the reality on ground in Nigeria today or not? And I think that if you take a sample, you'll agree that quite a number of people, across the country will really find their voice in what they are seeing. Although the limitation of the kind of protest that I'm having is that these groups, they don't seem to have any leverage on, for instance, the members of the National Assembly, members of the State House of Assembly, because some of the issues they are pushing, they are issues that ultimately will be resolved through constitutional review. So in that wise, it will be advisable if there is a linkage between these these power blocks and the people who are, representing their various constituencies, at the national and the National Assembly and state as assembly.
And state
the other point too is that will President Buhari and his administration, will they feel any pressure, from what the communique is saying, and the warning they are giving on the economy, on the security situation, on the threat to national unity, on national cohesion, and the rest. Well, it remains to be seen, But then politically, it depends on the political weight which they are able to muzzle. In bringing pressure on it. But then it is a view, a position which cannot be ignored, given the reality on ground in Nigeria today.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Well, if we move on now to the Punch on Sunday, it's also talking about the Edo State gubernatorial polls. Inec are ensuring over 20,000 ad hoc staff against death and other things. That is on their headline there. What do you have to say about that? That is quite concerning, that because of an election to determine the next governor of Edo State, tens of thousands of people are going to have life insurance policies taken out against them, or exactly that. It does make for unsettling reading, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. That is the point I was trying to make earlier. That it just shows that we are not developing politically. That we are that the malaise of political underdevelopment, is one of those diseases, socio-political diseases inflicting Nigeria. Because we are able to do this now because you are dealing with an election only in Edo State. So you can saturate the place with INEC facilities, security operations, and the rest. But what happens when you have the general election, and you will not be able to concentrate all the resources on Edo State alone, So it's not something that is really, it's not sharing news. It just shows that, election is still taken as a war rather than being a festival of democracy, which is what it should actually be.
I agree.
All right, I guess we can wrap up this newspaper review with the Sunday Independent, where the lead story there says, anxiety in the North over splinter group. Governors mount pressure on NCPF members as security agents keeps tabs on our leaders. We have been discussing the insecurity in the Northwest as well. I'd like you briefly, 20 seconds, to comment on that headline.
Yes, it just shows that the Nigerian political establishment, they still operate in factions, There is no unity of purpose, and that is what is really reflective there. Like I said, the NCDF is part of, is joining Afenifere, the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, as well as the Middle Belt Forum, and in an effort facilitated by President Obasanjo. But the other factions of the same establishment are opposed to what they are doing.
I'm so sorry to have to interrupt you again. It looks like we've run out of time for our newspaper review segment. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.